Okay, good afternoon. My name is Steve Bannerman, and what I'm planning to do with this video is to complement the description of the React browser client for the Rosetta Salt password manager, which is described in the Cloud Doc article, and to show you how I deploy a new version of it into AWS with the Amplify services rather. So, to begin, let's just give you some context here. Start off with the Cloud Doc website. On there you can see the featured work is the Rosetta Salt article. Click on that, we can see the executive summary, and then three main sections. One is the Python serverless server, the React browser client, and the React native mobile client. So the React browser client itself is really the subject of this video, and I'll show you the Rosetta Salt. Now I'll move over to the Rosetta Salt website and show you the current deployed version of that application. So if I click on this application button on the right upper right hand corner, it's going to load the Rosetta Salt application, and what happened there is it actually took the Cognito token that was already here on this browser, and it refreshed that and made sure it was still active, and now the application has moved on to phase 2 of the authentication process, and you can see this pretty simple page in front of you. I want to highlight two things on it for you: the request translate token title and the 1.0.15 version of the application. Okay, so our goal is going to be to create a new version of that application, deploy it into AWS with the Amplify framework or service. Okay, so before I move on, let me go ahead and show you in the upper left hand corner this sort of layout or plan for the video. So I've already gone through this part of the article: context, the application context. So we've looked at the current version of the app and highlighted the current title and version. Now I want to move to part C of the video. I want to show you the preparation for this new version of the Rosetta Salt application. Okay, so in my local development environment, I'm just showing you this change that I've made. If you look at it, you can see the change. Hopefully the colors don't bother you too much, but you can see the change has been to this title that I highlighted earlier. So if I go back to the browser, this request translate token has now been changed in the source code to request Rosetta Salt token, which is a little bit more accurate given the article. Okay, so I've made that change. I've created a local branch, and I've pushed that local branch to my GitHub repository and made that available to the AWS Amplify service. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense. Now if I move over to this AWS Amplify console, and just to get your bearings here, on the very bottom you can see hopefully that I've got two releases that are built right now, 1.0.14 and 1.0.15. And if we look at sort of the flow of the video, this last part here, what I'm planning to do in here, and this is really the focus of the video, I want to disconnect an old release branch, connect a new release branch, excuse me, test a new release branch, and then release that new release branch. Okay, so that's our goal for the rest of the video here. So at the bottom you can see 1.0.15, 1.0.14, and I showed you earlier that 1.0.15 is what is currently deployed. So I'm going to go ahead, this has been my pattern, it's probably not necessary. My pattern has been to leave 1.0.14 in place. In case there were problems with 1.0.15, I could revert back to 1.0.14. But it's been a while now that 1.0.15 has been in place, so I'm going to go ahead and disconnect the 1014 branch. I don't need it anymore. Okay, so that took a second to do that. Now I'm going to connect my new branch. At the very bottom here, 1016, that's the branch that I created and pushed in my local development environment. Unfortunately, for some reason 1011 was chosen, but if I go through the save and deploy, if you're not familiar with what's going on here inside of the Amplify service, it has this continuous build mechanism. You can point it at a branch in GitHub, and when I connect this new branch, it's going to go ahead and run through the yarn build process and stand up this new version of the application. So right now, while we're waiting for that, I'm just going to pause the video and I'll come back once that has completed. Okay, we're back, and you can see that the release 1016 has been built, deployed, and verified. So why don't we go ahead and take a look at that release. Now, what you can see here is that in order for me to get into this, I actually need to authenticate. So I'm going to that's because I don't have a Cognito token for this particular application. If you look at the version up here, you can see that it's not app.rosettasalt.org. So let me go ahead and authenticate. This gives a chance to highlight the two phases of authentication. And hopefully I'll be able to remember my password. Okay, second time the charm. Okay, so what we can see here, Rosetta Salt token rather than the previous title, and a new version 1016. And at this point, of course, we'd want to go through the process of sanity testing the application, any automated tests that we have to run against it. We'd want to do that. I'm going to skip that for the purposes of the video. If we look at where we were, we're going to skip past step 3. We've done a very minimal sanity test of it, made sure those specific changes are in place, and now we want to release the new version of the application. Okay, so I just want to double check here. If I go back to app.rosettasalt.org, I see I'm still on version 1015. Now back to the Amplify console. This is something that I mentioned in the article. If you're wanting to develop your own password manager and deploy it, you don't have to have your own domain, but I do have a custom domain set up for this, rosettasalt.org. So I'm going to go in here and I'm going to manage my subdomains, and I'm going to move that from 1015 to 1016 for app.rosettasalt.org, and then press the update button. And I'm not exactly sure why there's a two-phase commit to that, doing the update and the update, but so far there is. And the indicator has told me now that that is done. So we can go back here and refresh the page. And we can now see that app.rosettasalt.org has been updated, the title as well as the version. Okay, hopefully you found that video useful. Again, I went through the process of creating a new release for the React browser client, pushing that up to GitHub, having AWS Amplify connect that branch and build it, and then switching over to that new version. I should mention that if I make changes on that current branch, those will be picked up automatically, sort of the continuous release process inside of AWS Amplify. I'm not typically using that because I'd like to go through a testing process with a separate deployment first and then switch over to the new one, but that can be done as well. Anyhow, hope you learned from that, appreciate it, and if you have any questions about it, I'll be available to answer those for you. Thanks very much. Bye.